The choices we make in life have a fundamental impact on the description of the person that we want to be. But here's the good news. We have autonomy to make those choices, decisions, and moments in our lives count for something that is individually and hopefully collectively important to all of us. But it starts with taking individual accountability for the actions and the choices that we make in life. Vices in life will make us all reconsider the way we operate and conduct ourselves. And when it comes to alcohol consumption and ridding ourselves of such dependency, it again is a choice that we have to make for the prosperity of our future. And to provide some context to this very discussion, I want to provide you with some stats and the inspirational story of my friend Sean Robinson. For the purposes of expediency, let's dive into the numbers first. According to Statistics Canada, nearly 6 million Canadians report being heavily dependent on alcohol at least once a month for those aged 12 and over. Furthermore, 1 in 5 Canadians 15 and older meet the criteria of being dependent on alcohol throughout the duration of their life. Sean Robinson was on that very track before he got his life turned around. He had spent most of his life in construction and as an electrician, being exposed to what he conceived as toxic masculinity. Robinson credits the lowest point of his life to during the pandemic, during 2020, and where he discovered journaling and getting out his emotions on paper, allowing himself to forgive himself for his past transgressions and wanting to be an active and productive figure in the lives of his children and wife and those who cared most deeply for him. Robinson today is an author, a speaker, and the author of the book Going Dry, where he details his battle with alcoholism and his journey to becoming sober. Robinson is now on a mission to help others through his book and his spoken word, both on and off stage as a speaker, to help others realize that their life is a choice, and in order to maximize its potential, they have to take control of their own journey, good, bad, or indifferent. If I've piqued your interest, just stick around to learn all about Robinson's journey and how you can level up and maximize your life. Well, you're in the right place today because my conversation with Robinson starts now. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Sean, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm Super excited to learn about your life journey and everything in between this afternoon, my friend. Great to see you and happy Friday to you.
Yeah, thanks. Happy Friday to you too.
Absolutely. Now, Sean, I wanted to start our conversation on an optimistic tone, my friend, and what is your definition of how do you define the sort of prosperity of hope? What does that mean to you, my friend?
I thought about this and I think the promise this I think this promise has to come from within ourselves, prosperity and hope. And if we believe that we can achieve this, whatever this means to us, then we will manifest and work towards it. Also from within, we can create whatever this means. So, hope and prosperity would mean something different to each individual. And once you have a picture of what that is, then yeah, you can kind of see it for yourself and work towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Sean, just before we get into your life story, my friend, I'm curious from where you are today, from where you were, say, 10 years ago, what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned about life and the evolvement of your character and personality, my friend? What's the greatest life lesson you think you've learned to this point in your life?
Um, uh, there's definitely a different version of me 10 years ago, but even just the last 3 years, the biggest lesson I've learned is that we're not perfect. We're not expected to know everything. So to try something and to fail, or to try something and not do it as well, we're all in that same position when we try and do anything. So the biggest lesson is just get started. Just do something, even if it's something you've never done before, and work on it as you go. Get better as you go. Because if you don't go into it knowing that you're not going to be very good at it, you may never get started.
Yeah, absolutely. My friend, I want to dive into your story. I know that you've spent most of your life as in the construction industry, and you're also an electrician, and you've also had the experience of sort of persevering through some toxic work and life environments, my friend. So I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about your life story and how it's impacted the person you are today.
Definitely. So when I was very young, I have two younger brothers. We were brought up in an environment that was, my dad was a mechanic. We were working on stuff, helping him out in the garage, very hands on. And the environment was very, there was a lot of alcohol in that environment. So there was a lot that set me up for the way I thought I was supposed to live when I reached a certain point in my life, certain age, and then to maintain beyond that. So I took and developed these habits and routines on my own of how I was supposed to work and handle. And there was a lot of generational trauma. There was a lot of uh, toxic masculinity and expectations that I felt I had to maintain weak or show weakness and just get it done. And like that's a lot of pressure to carry through our life. And there was a lot of that just influenced everything that I did growing up and even into I'm 39 now. But um, just the expectation that I had to be a certain way and carry myself through certain moments. And I wasn't a big reader. I didn't read books. I wasn't looking into self help. I wasn't asking questions. So at the end of 2020, when I found myself like call it my rock bottom, and I'm 320 pounds, I'm wondering all my life habits and routines and why can't I figure this out? But I never changed any of my inputs. I never changed the habits that I had. I never changed the thought process that led me to that point until I decided to not drink alcohol anymore, not have what I thought to be true about the way I was supposed to have my routines and stuff through what I grew up with. Did I realize that I could create the whatever I wanted? I could work on perfecting and bettering myself through, habit forming and those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, I know you've written a book called Going Dry, my friend, where you detail this experience. So tell me about the book and your definition of positive masculinity as well, my friend.
So when I was working through this journey and reached that what I call rock bottom, I wasn't sure what to do. I thought I had to fix it myself. So I decided to take 30 days, dry January, alcohol free. I was going to go through this month, take a break, kind of see what I could do, fix my lifestyle. So as I worked through dry January, dry February, opening up to the self-help world and personal development world and listening to podcasts and really absorbing as much information as I could. Um, I started in that process journaling, and I maintained this journal through this entire journey of not drinking, changing my life, going to the what was 30 days, 100 days, then the full year. And as I journaled through that entire year, I got to the end of 2021, and a friend had asked, how are you making out? I said, oh, I could write a book. And I was like, well, I have been doing this journal, and this is something that I couldn't find when I started from the space that I came from and my background. So I was like, why would I sit on this for me when my old self could use it? So I took my journal from every experience I had, the pressures to drink, the pressures to maintain a lifestyle, and then what I did to kind of get through situations with family, situations with friends, and put it in a 120 page because I wasn't a reader before. So I kept it small to the point and just put it in this book that I could use in my old position. So um, I released Going Dry, My Path to Overcoming Habitual Drinking, and I've been getting a lot of great feedback. I know there's been quite a few people that have already felt inspired by what I did in my journey through that point in my life.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And talk to me about the emotional balance you had to strike going through that journey, because I know a journey through sobriety isn't always easy. So tell me about the emotional ups and downs throughout that journey, my friend.
Well, it was very difficult because I came from that space that had to fix it myself. I had to toughen up, and I couldn't ask for help. I didn't feel like I could because it was just not who I was brought up or led to believe I should be. So to go through that process on your own is more difficult than it needs to be. And to add to that, I know there's a lot of programs and resources, but I wasn't brought up in a religious household. We didn't go to church. We didn't do the things and read the influences and have the support that speaks to me from that background. So a lot of the programs that I found were based heavily on religion. So I didn't feel like I belonged there. So I didn't go through any of that. So combining those two factors, I had a lot of emotion. I had a lot of confusion. I had a lot of things on my mind that, how can I do this on my own? How can I do this when I can't use those programs? And there's a lot more out there I would learn later. But in that moment, how do I get through this? And then I'm a father of 3 young kids. I'm a husband. I'm working full-time construction. I'm volunteer firefighting on the side. So I'm trying to determine this avenue of getting better and still maintain all these other responsibilities. So it was very deep. It was dark for me. It was my journal. It was a lot of just venting to myself. It was beating myself up. It all started as a place for me to just outlet and not feel judged, not feel like I had to explain certain thoughts or feelings or make my wife or somebody close to me feel worried when I didn't have those thoughts, but I was definitely needing somewhere that and journaling. This is I highly recommend it now, but and in that moment it wasn't I wasn't using it for what I mean, I guess I was using it for what I should have, but I didn't think I was.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Sean, I wanted to ask you about your moments of clarity and where do you think you gained the most clarity throughout this entire experience? Where was the turning point for you, my friend?
I think there was a few because there was different levels of it for me. So the first point that I can think of was about mid-January. So I had decided my 30 days was going to be dry January. I'm going this entire month. And by mid-January, there were so many people around me that had, and this was typical for me in my past too, but any commitment to a New Year's resolution, they were done by the second week. So, towards the end of January, that was massive for me because I carried on. And then into February, where I was still, dry February, I was doing my thing still. I wasn't worried about what everyone around me was doing or how they were working on their goals. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew a version of what I wanted in this thing I was doing. And the most clarity for me came from focusing on what I needed and not what everyone around me was doing. And that carried through in different levels as I went through not only this journey of not drinking, but after that year, since then I've lost over 100 pounds, and I've developed a lot more with what I provide for coaching and for workshops and in this space and what I've gone through. And that development has as I've leveled up, say, the growth has given me much more clarity as to what I can give back to the person that I used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Sean, I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the idea of really making positive choices in life because, life is about choices and the choices that we make to influence the people that we are. So tell me about making positive choices and what goes into creating those good habits in your view.
I think there's definitely a position where we have only what we're given as we grow up and as we develop. So if we come from a certain space that isn't as productive in our development as the next, we can only do with what we have, right? So as we develop and as we learn and as we get older, we have to reach a point where we understand what is and isn't productive and positive for ourselves. So as I developed and as I grew and I came out of this is just who I am mentality that I was just a couple of years ago, uh, I was I was coming out of that shell. I was allowing the resources and influences that I needed to become more positive and get away from that person that I thought I had to be because of what influences and upbringing I had. So when we reach that certain point, then we realize things aren't productive. We have to remember we can change that. We can change that sometimes a lot easier than we think. And we just have to remember that we don't have to do things the same way we've always done them if they don't make us feel right, if they don't make us feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Sean, I'm curious to get your thoughts on how do you think mental toughness and resilience are interconnected? What are your thoughts there?
I think that they're both very similar. You can find a different definition for both, but they're both required. Mental toughness and resiliency are required to keep us going through some tough moments. Facing any kind of adversity, our ability to stay focused and to bounce back can help us from getting hurt. It can help us from going back to old habits, old routines, different things that may have led us to the position that we aren't appreciating that we may be in.
And, Sean, as a dad, I'm curious, what sort of example do you want to set for your kids?
A lot of this journey for me was for my kids to start. I found myself at my own rock bottom, but I found myself becoming a version of me that I didn't like, a version of me that was similar to some situations that I went through growing up. So that sort of, and I'll use the term generational trauma because I used it earlier, but that sort of thing that I was passing down to my kids through the things that I thought was true just weren't productive. So when I decided that I wanted to work on this, this was for the betterment of not only myself but my family and my kids. So to take that yelling, that impatience, that um, situation that I was creating, and have more patience, bring more learning home, read to my kids. And one example, like my middle child, he was 6 at the time and very, very anxious. He's very anxious, and he just negative all the time. It was an influence probably created from how I used to be. And then we read John Gordon's Energy Bus together, and we started to take parts of that, and they use my favorite golf shot, or my favorite moment. And every day at dinner we would do this favorite moment. And in the beginning it was difficult because everybody was like, no, no, no. And I'm saying everybody, my 3 kids, my wife, and I at the dinner table. But then as we started to pick one thing every single day at dinner that made us happy, made us smile, was our favorite thing, it became so much bigger. And today we do this still every day. My middle anxious child, especially, he will engage everybody. If we have 20 people over for a party and it's dinner time, everyone around has to take their turn and share their favorite thing. And it has become such a great moment for us that we're very proud of. And I would have never found that if I didn't start this personal journey. And moments like that, to answer your question, have made me as a parent way, way better, and my kids' future much better because of it.
And do you think that increased sort of focus on focusing on the things that are been important to you has helped to create better habits? Do you sort of fall within that vein as well?
No, definitely. It's no question. My influences and the things I was reading and the podcasts I was listening to, and I would have never found that in my old mindset when I was negative and cynical, and as overweight and miserable, and all those things that I used to be. Like, I would have never listened to or even looked at an Energy Bus or any other book, Atomic Habits, all these things that have been massive for me now, and in the influences with my kids. I would have never found that. It would have never, it would have never been.
Yeah, and Sean, if someone was to pick up your book and listen after listening to this conversation, and it's sort of on the same journey that you were on when they were on their journey to stop drinking. I'm wondering if there's one message that you would deliver to someone who has had a similar struggle with the bottle that you did. What would be your message, and what would be the one message you want people to take away from your book?
I think the power of vulnerability. I know that that's a book title, and I very highly recommend it. But the vulnerability that I was able to come to terms with and then show through my journey, and then sharing that journey, we all have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Nobody's perfect. We're all dealing with different versions of conflict and resolution and imperfection. And despite the the way we show ourselves on social media, there's a lot that we all deal with in the background. And in my book, I know that this is not a special occasion, a special circumstance. Like, there's a lot of people that are in a similar situation, that deal with especially their habits and routines with drinking. Like, I didn't think I had a problem. I didn't realize it was as negative for me as it was. So when I started that, it wasn't that I thought the addiction or the problem was with the substance. It was just one thing I could remove that would make me feel better. So the one message from my book and from this journey is just allow yourself to be vulnerable, understand that nobody's perfect, and just give yourself a chance. Be Do things that you've never done before.
Yeah, and Sean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you this afternoon was because I think we share the same synergy in the fact that I'm a big believer in the power of reflection and being resilient and reflective and really being present within the moment. So tell me about, from your perspective, the value of being present and allowing your life to sort of relax or slow down so that you can really be present in the moment. How important is that for you, buddy?
I think when we're like, there's day to day life is so busy. Everybody's busy. There's a lot going on. And I've been very conscious of this when people ask me how it's going, because I used to say, oh, it's busy. Or, how was your day? Busy. But that's not a good answer. So, in context for your question, we're all busy. We've all got a lot going on, but we have to remember to slow the things down, especially related to like where my relationship with my kids. Like, they're already growing up so fast. Everything is moving so fast that if I don't take that time to read that story to my kids, or if I don't take that moment for myself and go for that walk or listen to that book or song or whatever, this moment's going to pass. I'm going to be overworked. I'm going to work myself back to the stress and the anxiety that I was in when I started. And we have to be intentional with everything that we do, including that downtime, that rest time, that regeneration that we need.
Yeah, and Sean, if I gave you the budget to produce a 60-second commercial on the power of inclusion and acceptance of all differences and all people, how do you think you would structure the commercial, and what overriding messages or themes would you hope to convey, my friend?
Well, Kevin, you've been doing some great work, and watching some of your videos, it's very very inspiring. And the thing along with everything that you can do is we are all different. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different abilities. We all come from different places. And whether it's like physically, mentally, spiritually, not one of us is the same. If and when, especially, become parents, we become responsible for more people of physical, mental differences. And once we understand that the people we interact with and are responsible for are not like us, we can then appreciate that we can have different lives, different likes, dislikes, opinions, motivations, abilities, and do so without negativity. And a lot of it comes back to teamwork too, where we build a team of people of different backgrounds, different abilities. We are much more successful, and we need to be a better team as we support each other. And as we, if I had a commercial, it would be um, about that teamwork, about that inclusion, and about us working together for the same results.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, tell me, I'm a big believer in having non-negotiables in life, and really sticking to those to create a great habit. So tell me, what are some of your non-negotiables in life? Something you're not willing to compromise on for your own personal level of happiness or fulfillment, my friend.
I think my biggest one is honesty. When I started my journey, and I didn't realize this in the beginning, but as different moments came up, there was some moments where, like, one example, I was going on a guy's trip, and I had no intentions of drinking, and was fine with that. But a friend of mine was like, "Oh, come on, your wife's not going to be here." And I'm like, "Well, my wife's not the reason." She is in a way, but like, she didn't put me on an ultimatum or anything that said you have to do this or else. So by hearing him say that to me, like, I needed to be honest with myself, and I needed to be honest with the people around me, that, setting up barriers and all of those things, but being honest to the mission I was on, and how I expected to achieve it, how I expected to interact, and then honest with the people around me about what I was going to do in any moment, or what I expected them. I think was one of my biggest non-negotiables. And then just through on consistency, making sure that I do what I'm working on every day. is my biggest one too, because if we're not consistent with what we're working on, I found I was too easily thrown off track. And I don't mean with drinking, because I was pretty committed, but when I went through not having sugar for a while, or I went through drinking more water, there was moments where I was like, oh, well, I've already had this cookie, so I'm going to have 3 or 4 more. And those moments weren't very productive for me. So I just needed consistency, as another big, say, non-negotiable.
And do you think consistency is the key to eliminating vices in life as well?
I think so, because a lot of the habits we create, are just what we are used to doing in life. So if we're going to try and reprogram that, if we're going to try and reprogram not eating sugar, or not drinking, or working out more, or drinking more water, whatever it is we want to work on, we can't just do it once in a while. We've got to do that 20-day, 60-day, 100-day cycle or period to do something every day in a small form, and then working, like developing on it once we are comfortable. We've got to do that consistently in order to reprogram that routine, in order to feel comfortable with what we're doing, and to get rid of that old habit or that old thing that we don't want to do anymore. So that consistency, and I was marking it every day on the calendar. I had circles and check marks and scratches and whatever I was doing, just every single day for everything I was working on, so that I could keep track of it, and I knew what all these things meant. And if I didn't feel like I was being vulnerable that day, and someone saw my calendar and asked questions, then I could make up whatever I wanted. Oh, those are whatever, instead of actually what the marks and checks meant, because it was just my, I guess, code to whether I wanted to talk about it or not. But that consistency is huge for changing your lifestyle.
And it also keeps you personally accountable, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and Sean, I know that we're both public speakers, so tell me, in your view, what's the greatest part about being a motivational speaker, and what do you think is the key to sustained success in that industry, my friend?
I think the greatest thing is just knowing that you're talking to people that want to hear your message, that want to work with you in your workshop, and to get your input. And I think a lot of the times the people know already what it is you're bringing, but just that energy and that enthusiasm from people, because in a day-to-day life, not everyone around us wants to hear what we have to say, right? So it's knowing your audience, and being present with that group that just wants to be there. And like, that was probably my favorite thing. And then just learning from people. There's so many discussions and so many things that are happening in those environments that are bringing that other perspective, or that other version to what you're speaking about, or what you've lived through, that can help you grow.
Yeah, and Sean, to that point, what sort of value do you place on the value of authenticity, my friend? What does authenticity mean to you?
I think authenticity is just like how important honesty is to me. It's being authentic, being honest, vulnerable, open, sharing the story, the experience, the learning based on my perception and my experience of it, and not implying that I'm any kind of expert, or any kind of doctor, therapist that is going to give the textbook advice, or the training that they've got, that they specialize in. Like, it's authentic, is to me is just being who you are and who you are supposed to be, based on your experience, your background, for that person in that moment.
Yeah, and Sean, I know we're both Canadian, my friend. So tell me, what's the best part about living in Canada, and why are you proud to be Canadian, my friend?
Well, I think I haven't lived in the States, or anywhere else, but I think some things I'm proud of is our hockey relationship, and even though the Maple Leafs aren't always playing that well, they have been doing well the last couple of years, so that's better.
Well, it keeps you engaged and invested one way or the other being a Maple Leafs fan, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, Sean, tell me, my friend, why do you think today is a great day to make a difference? Because, going back to the beginning of our conversation, life is all about choices, right? So, why do you think today is a great day to capitalize on your personal and professional potential and make a difference, my friend?
Today is a great day because we can't fix what's already happened by going back in time. We can't go back to decisions we've made, experiences we were in, and just change the outcome. So today is our only way to do anything about maybe the person we feel we've become or the situation that has happened, and and we can't do anything about tomorrow until we do that right now. So if it's taking that course or starting that diet or removing something, adding something that is more productive to who you want to be tomorrow, we have to get started today. And something I found in the beginning of my journey was, like, I did everything I could to put all of my development off. Like, even when I decided to do dry January, like, that was January 1st, but that was a holiday. That's New Year's Day. And then that fell on a Saturday, I think. So then the Sunday was a holiday too, and it was the weekend. So it was like the fourth, the third or the fourth before I got started. And I learned, and this is something I do now. If I have the inclination that I want to get started on something, I get started on it right away. I don't wait for a Monday. I don't wait for the first of the month, or don't wait for New Year's Eve, because I always pushed it off every single time. So if I want to wait until to do something, it can't be that important if I'm going to wait until January 1st.
Yeah, it's all about your personal level of commitment to yourself, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And, Sean, my final question for you this afternoon has to do with the concept of legacy and how you want your personal and professional legacy to be determined.
Yeah. So my legacy, I just want whatever version of my legacy to be based on the fact that I had vulnerabilities. I had difficult moments. I made bad decisions, and I would like my legacy to speak to the lessons that I learned and the things that I did or overcame, and how I did it in a way that doesn't paint any unrealistic picture. I think collectively we put on that display of happiness and perfection, especially on social media, and that, like I said earlier, we all have conflict, we all have negative, depressing moments, and when we see these things or some of them in others, that they're working through different things, like, we get inspired when we're working through something similar. So I think, knowing that someone overcame an obstacle and is succeeding, gives us hope for ourselves. So I think I'd like my legacy to be based on the things that I had to deal with and go through and overcome, and how I did it, so that someone else may benefit from maybe some hard lessons that hopefully they don't have to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, finally, tell me if people want to get connected with you, my friend, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, I'm going dry on most social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but my website is seanrobinson.ca, and everything I have, I'm updating it soon here, but everything I have is linked on my website. So I've started a blog. It's on there, based solely on my website. My TikTok and Instagram videos and content that I put out constantly. On my website, you can sign up for my newsletter I put out every Tuesday morning, and it's got my highlights of the week and different special free content. So through my website would be the best way.
Oh, well, fantastic, Sean. From one Canadian to another, my friend. I really enjoyed our time together, learning about your life story and how you're moving the world forward to make sure that we inch closer to that ever expanding bridge of progress, my friend. I want to thank you for your work in the space of personal development and for sharing your story with me this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Yes, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it too, and keep up the great work. You're very inspiring, and I look forward to following your journey as well.